And greetings. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Steve Deace Show here, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast. I'm Steve Deace alongside Todd Erzin. Aaron McIntyre going to be joined by Blaze editor Rob Eno here for the Deace Group in just a matter of moments. We are brought to you by our friends over at Miracle Made. You know I love my Miracle Made sheets. They'll keep you warm or cool all the year long with their thermo-regulating silver-infused fabric that was inspired by NASA that also does a great job, by the way, of keeping your sheets way more bacteria-free than they otherwise would be. All right, so upgrade your sleep today because these sheets are flat-out awesome. Give the gift of better rest by going to trymiracle.com/Deace to try Miracle Made sheets today. You'll save over 40%, and when you use the promo code Deace, you're going to get an extra 20% off, plus a free 3-piece towel set. They make an amazing gift. And with a 30-day money-back guarantee, which you won't need, there's no risk. That's trymiracle.com/Deace using the code Deace for the biggest discount at checkout. You won't regret these sheets. I love them. Trymiracle.com/Deace, code Deace. Trymiracle.com, code Deace/Deace. All right. Next hour, it's Feedback Friday. But first, it's time for the Deace Group. Happy New Year to you, Rob. Good to see you down there in Dallas, brother. Let's get to it.
Happy New Year.
Thank you. Let's get to it. Your weekly look at the week that was begins, as it always does, with issue 1. Bleep, Lord Nefarious says.
ICE is beyond reform. ICE is totally out of control. And this week, I intend to introduce a bill to abolish ICE. We need to make ICE go away.
That you should hit the gas. If they're you should run them over. You should run them over with your car, and you should do it quickly before they can shoot you. I have to go to my mechanic. I have to get my car fixed so that I can drive faster, just in case. This is insane. You should hit them. You should hit them. They will say you hit them anyway.
Do you think that men can get pregnant?
I hesitated there because I wasn't sure where the conversation was going.
Shame! Shame!
Do you have a job? Do you have a job?
Shame! Shame! I'm getting paid right now!
Can men get pregnant? That's a yes or no question. It really is, I think.
I think you're trying to reduce the complexity of...
Can men get pregnant? You're a doctor, I think.
Science and evidence should guide medicine.
Do science and evidence tell us that men can get pregnant? Biological men. Can they get pregnant?
I also think yes-no questions like this are a political tool.
The deployment of thousands of armed, mass DHS agents to Minnesota has done our state serious harm. This is, in essence, a federal invasion of the Twin Cities.
Can men get pregnant?
I think you're also conflating...
We have to show up with guns. We have to. There's no other way around it.
Can men get pregnant?
Well, you were talking about...
I'm very aware of the historic injustice of victim blaming, oftentimes portrayed by law enforcement, including this very agency. I want to speak for just a moment specifically to my Latino community. It saddens me.
Can men get pregnant? Yes or no?
I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you.
I testified because I already sued the state of Texas because Texas is racist.
Blackstone is a bigger and worse target than, like, you know, Mrs. Smith, who owns 15 buildings. But Mrs. Smith, who owns 15 buildings, still, like, kind of sucks and has a lot more stability than renters. And there's more of them than there are of the Blackstones. And so it's just like this challenging dynamic that white middle-class homeowners are a huge problem for our renter justice movement.
An understanding of what it means to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman.
Yes, Your Honor.
And what is that definition? For equal protection purposes, what does it mean to be a boy or a girl or a man or a woman?
Sorry, I misunderstood your question. I think that the underlying enactment, whatever it was, the policy, the law, we'd have to have an understanding of how the state or the government was just understanding that term to figure out whether or not someone was excluded. We do not have a definition for the court.
Can men get pregnant?
Again, the reason I paused there is I'm not really sure what the goal of the question is.
The goal is just to establish a biological reality.
You don't overeat and become obese. Right. Obesity causes you to overeat. Right. Obesity causes you to have all of that food noise.
Rob, you and I have both been obese in our past. Is that true?
Absolutely. It's not my fault, Steve.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'm obese again because, you can overcome the Ozempic.
So you and I...
My willpower has done that.
Yeah, you and I have both been obese. Were you obese because you were eating more or eating less, do you think?
Well, it was because I was eating more, but the obesity caused me to eat more.
Exactly.
Oprah's completely
Which
right.
was caused by you eating more. Yes.
Yeah. Possibly.
All right, let's get to it. Okay. Rob, back to you as the guest. You get the first crack at it. What was the most dreadful thing you just watched and why? Because that was a pennies of dreadful there. So go ahead.
I told Aaron I've been out sick like half of this week, so thank you for recapping it for me and making me wish that I was still out sick.
So a lot of that was new to you. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to go with the Senator Josh Hawley that we saw. Those were 7 different questions, right, Aaron? That wasn't Senator Josh Hawley asking once.
Try 17.
And you just repeating it. Yeah. So, that is the absolute worst. They just don't want to answer it. And then as a runner-up, it would be the redheaded commie that is the tenant advocate in New York. Yeah. Yeah, that would be the number 2. But absolutely, I mean, they don't want to answer the question because they know that the answer to the question is simple. The answer to the question is no, and if they say no, then their entire worldview is completely destroyed. So they can't answer truthfully, so they decide to not answer.
Correct, Rob, but this is something, since you were out sick this week, you didn't hear me say this earlier this week, so I want to get your take on it, all right? The amount of retardation demonstrated in that clip, and then also by an attorney at the U.S. Supreme Court, we absolutely should be laughing at it. We absolutely should be mocking it, not because we can shame the people that are that retarded, but we can, by laughing at their retardation and humiliating them in public for it, we can stop the normies from succumbing to it, right? Because the normies just want to be on the side that appears to be right, has the momentum, popular, the side where it doesn't cost them anything to go with that. And that's who most voters are. So we need to humiliate this level of retardation as publicly as we possibly can, so that normies feel like it is just toxic to even entertain it at any level whatsoever. But I think we also at the same time have to understand the amount of degrees that woman has sitting there in the U.S. Senate, the amount of degrees that other woman had sitting there in the U.S. Supreme Court, the level of commitment and conviction that they have, that they are willing to put themselves through a humiliation ritual for what they believe, and so that they can impose it on you. Do not underestimate that. And in the past,
absolutely, 100%.
In the past, what we've done is we've mocked the left for their retardation, but we've done it almost as if no one will go along with this, and they went along. The normies went along with almost all of it every single time. We must mock and humiliate it, yes, but we have to do so also with the understanding, my friend, that these people are serious. They are willing to debase themselves to this level for what they believe. And it's going to take serious conviction on our side, more than humiliation of them, serious conviction on our side to ultimately defeat these people.
You're 100% true, but I don't think that they feel humiliation over it. I think that that's part of the problem, is they don't feel humiliation on it.
Oh,
they
I totally agree.
We
think it's humiliating, but they don't, because they're willing to suffer for what they believe. I agree, yeah.
Correct. Yeah, they absolutely 100% believe it and can't believe that you are so bigoted that you would bring up actual real science to dare question their whatever the hell. The intersectionality, is that what I don't know. I've never known what intersectionality is. Maybe that's what intersectionality is. I think, made up words are made up words. But they fully 100% believe it. And I think that, you see with the trans and sports issue, and you see with a couple things, that I think that, I know Democrats that realize that the reason that they lost is because of stuff like this. But I don't think they're going to change anytime soon, which is why we have to do the things like defunding, women's studies departments and stopping all of that nonsense, non-real degrees.
Correct.
And when you say that that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do.
100%. Todd, what stood out to you in the montage?
Well, the same. Not to belabor a point, but we have to belabor the point. There's no choice. This is why I said before COVID came along, in the couple years leading up to COVID, this transgender stuff, once we believe in this, we will utterly believe in anything. And we still haven't learned the lessons of transgenderism and COVID, because in the points we're bringing up, there's of course there's no shame. There's no fear. That attorney at the Supreme Court, whose response to Alito is we don't have a definition of male versus female, should be disbarred. But she won't be. That doctor should never practice medicine again. But she will.
Mm-hmm.
They are totally untethered from a reality that should cause all of you to realize that these people are barely trustworthy to be a barista. Yet they operate on the highest echelons of society. And we memed and we laughed. There is something just so deeply unsettling that's getting worse, not better, about how much access our society has to comfort that it can numb us from the fact that those two people aren't jokes. They are domestic terrorists. And they wouldn't hesitate if they get the power to knock on your door, take your kids, and lock you up. We still haven't reconciled ourselves to that. Isaiah 1, once again, where would you yet be struck? Apparently, everywhere.
At a minimum, what we have to learn to do, and this is the way our side needs to learn to think. At a minimum, people on our side need to be searching that doctor and that attorney. Are they licensed in any red states? And take that away.
We won't. We
at least have to be.
Yes,
we
at
least have to start thinking along those lines.
This
okay,
dovetails perfectly with what I was about to say. If you want to deduce where we are culturally, if you wanted at any point along the timeline, you need to look, and you can do it really quickly. You can even do your own self-assessment. Where lies the stigma? What is stigmatized in a culture? And that will tell you everything you need to know about the health of a culture. Mm-hmm. For all of the left, for all of my lifetime, talking about destigmatizing that, destigmatizing this, they were just really tilting the stigma towards the right.
Yes.
If you believed one man and one woman is marriage, real marriage, the only definition of marriage, guess what you have now in the year 2026? You're stigmatized. That's just one example. If you believe that killing a baby in the womb is murder, there's a stigma attached with that belief, but I pray that that's going away. What you're describing there, Steve, is the mechanical motion of actually moving the stigma back in the right direction. Stigma is good. Stigma is healthy if it's pointed in the right direction.
Of course, absolutely. But the people beyond shame, publicly willing to stand and preach their gospel. And I keep getting constant pushback, fighting me tooth and nail about why they... just this morning, I have to be beyond an honest account because you can just look at my address and find you. They are going to come and find you no matter what. If you have the moral psychology that I always have to hide and they always get to dominate in public. Don't you see that? That's the game. You keep hiding.
Yes.
You won't proudly shine your light. You're always cowering in darkness. It's never going to work.
You just made the point that I just made, I think, even better. You're succumbing to the left's stigma on you, on everything by hiding your identity. But that's a great point.
Let's get to the exit question on a scale of 1 to 10. With 1 being how limp and lame Lindsey Graham's Tinder account he doesn't probably have is. 10 being as firm and robust as Lindsey Graham's Grindr account that he likely currently possesses is. Rank this week's level of total depravity, Todd.
10.
Rob.
10.
Aaron.
Back to a 10.
I think it's a definite 10 for sure. All right, before we get to issue 2, don't forget about our friends over at Relief Factor. Quality of life matters greatly. One of your New Year's resolutions might be to be more pain-free if you can. Maybe you've given up. Well, we can't guarantee. This isn't an antidote, but what we can tell you are results, actual data. Over the years, over 1 million people have taken the 3-week quick start from Relief Factor. 70% have seen such good results in 3 weeks or less. They stuck with the product after that, long term. So why don't you see if you don't see a difference in your pain in 3 weeks or less by taking the 3-week quick start at Relief Factor, especially because it's just $20 to find out. That's it at relieffactor.com. Just $20. It's the drug-free supplement created by physicians who can prescribe drugs. But they were hoping for something that was drug-free, that wouldn't risk any side effects, but would do something about all that inflammation in your joints that's likely manifesting and symptomizing as that chronic pain. And that's something they did, is Relief Factor. Give it a shot today. Just $20 for 3 weeks to see if you don't see a difference in your pain in 3 weeks or less at relieffactor.com. Again, head over to relieffactor.com. All right, let's get to issue 2. Where are the arrests?
Let's begin with this. This tweet and variations of it went viral last weekend, depicting the number of high-profile arrests and narratives like the Biden auto pen scandal, Russian collusion hoax, J6, Epstein, Benghazi, and basically every major scandal of the last 10-plus years. And the answer is, to our knowledge, a really low, really round number, 0. And then this week, some low-hanging fruit presented itself thanks to O'Keefe Media Group.
A current Secret Service agent on Vice President J.D. Vance's security detail.
When he's like walking, like, where are you?
We'll have at least a minimum head and
gives away vital high-level security information to our undercover journalists.
We have different shifts. We have shift.
Tells her about detailed future travel plans for the vice president, and even sends her pictures with location metadata revealing where the president's convoy was located, potentially violating both the Secret Service NDA and United States federal law. And Tomas is fully aware of this. Quote, I sign paperwork, so if I don't have to get out information, I never do, otherwise I get in trouble.
Secret Service released a memo decrying how their agent was the victim of a targeted operation, but that the agent did fall short of standards. When these two stories are taken together in the same week, we're left wondering, what standards?
Rob, our base, I'm going to come back to you because we've talked about this a couple days this week already. So let's get another voice in to kick off this conversation. And I continue to highlight it because not just am I frustrated, our base is very frustrated by this. And I'm sure, you're aware of the data as much as we are. We don't need to be giving our people less reason to vote here in November. They've got plenty already. They're pretty demoralized right now. Okay. And we're already at risk, I think, of losing one of the 3 key blocks that put us over the top and gave us the popular vote and a mandate in this last election. Hispanic men, Maha, and the Theo Von, Andrew Schultz, Joe Rogan, bro dude. Okay. That group, I think they're off the reservation right now. They voted our way because of this kind of stuff. They thought this kind of stuff was going to get addressed. All right, that the guy that got shot in the face, would be more motivated than anybody else to deal with some of these kinds of issues, and make adulting great again. And then that has a lot of crossover with the MAGA base too, because a lot of people are MAGA because they've given up on, true policy reform because they think the system is so corrupt that we can't do it even if we try. And so we've got to expose this stuff and hold the system accountable. That is clearly not happening on a judicial level. I mean, if we all, and maybe you'll disagree, Rob, but if we sit around, all of us here at the Blaze, and if we did a grade by department of year 1 of the Trump administration, all the entities involved in accountability, DOJ, FBI, etc., would all rank significantly lower than every other single department. And yet this is one of the key reasons people are voting our way. And so the frustration is mounting. Your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. And I looked at this thing over the weekend, this actual tweet. And, the thing is there's actually been charges tried, right? I think we tried against Letitia James. None of these big things. I mean, none of the COVID stuff, the Benghazi, any of that stuff. But every time we try, there's basically jury nullification from left-wing juries because all the jurisdictions for these places are in places like, New York City and Washington, D.C. You got to try you got to find a reason to try this stuff in West Texas. Bring up charges in places where these juries aren't going to just nullify you and not bring the charges. And I think that's part of what
Great
they're
point.
going.
All right, so the Mar-a-Lago raid happened in DeSantis' Florida, reddest state in the country. Palm Beach County, in fact, which DeSantis flipped to red. All right, that's where Judge Eileen Cannon basically threw out their attempt to stop Trump from winning the last election in her court, in her federal court, right? Where are the charges? Yep. Where are the perp walks, Rob? Everybody that raided his residence, where are the perp walks in that northern district of Florida right now? Where are they? And where have they been for the last year?
They're not, and they have to be. And I think that's why Trump is frustrated with Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, it looks like. I mean, if that Wall Street Journal story was correct this week, he's very frustrated that there's been a lack of, prosecutions. And it makes me crack up because the media says that they have been the most targeted lawfare Department of Justice ever when nothing's been done and completely, glosses over what happened for 4 years when their people had power. They do that on purpose, obviously. But anytime there's any sniffing of it, it's like, oh, he's just using lawfare. You're absolutely right, Steve, and it's absolutely infuriating, and something needs to happen. And I think that if stuff doesn't start happening soon, Pam Bondi is probably going to be out. And she should be.
Everything Rob said is another reason to, and I know he agrees. I'm just segueing to you, Todd. Everything Rob said is another reason to do this. So in other words, what Rob just said is what I've been telling you guys from the beginning. We're getting all the heat from our opponents as if we're doing this stuff, and then we're getting none of the credit from our own base for actually doing it, right? So if we're going to get all the heat for being Nazis and fascists and authoritarians, and no matter whether we're doing it or not, why don't we actually do the justice thing and energize our base, and not just energize our base, but do something that actually is justice and balances the scales here in a Cold War where they believe they can just do whatever they want to our people whenever they want, and they get away with it. And we sit over here and act as if we can't do anything in retaliation and in return.
Well, you're of course right. Listen, if I'm a president who nearly got had his head blown off, I'm the Green Lantern in the recent Superman movie. I'm just flipping the bird to these guys. That I'm going in like that.
You're just doing stuff.
Oh yeah, I'm just doing stuff. So it makes me wonder. I'm just trying to unpack the psychology of where he's at. Also, considering the fact that he's been given a green light are we going to get pushback on this? But he actually has been given a green light by the American people on this. He went into the D.C. with the Guard. He's gone into other cities. The American people are like, cool. They're fine with it. Okay. So what is it? And I'm just thinking, we talked about 2 days on the show about the tariffs and the law, the legal outcome of that. Is Donald Trump just paralyzed by the fact, it's not just this issue, it's multiple issues. And he's sitting here thinking, you guys, I'm just trying to balance the budget and do groovy deals across the world. And I might not even get to do that. And you expect me to just go run roughshod with the military in American cities? Like, is that glitching him out? So I'm forced to dig into the mind of Donald Trump on this one. Is that somehow how his legal, and then his advisors, legal or otherwise, are they weighing and measuring those same variables? Because I got nothing else. It just seems so obvious that this isn't actually a hard decision on a number of fronts. The American people are actually supportive, for the most part, stopping it.
Like the Bro Dude vote, Aaron. One of the shows in the last 2 years that has exploded in growth and joined this top tier of overall shows for bro dudes with the Theo Vons and the Joe Rogans is Sean Ryan. All right? Help me understand, what are we gaining by having Sean Ryan just posting every single day, sub-posting the vice president, sub-posting the entire administration with one of the largest podcast audiences as potential right-of-center voters in America? What are we gaining by having him just sub-posting all of our biggest names for selling us out on the Epstein thing? What are we gaining from that? I don't understand this. We're getting all the heat as if we did all these things, and then we don't do them anyway. What was the point of that then?
You know, in fairness to Pam Bondi, the last two FBI directors, James Comey and Chris Wray, they left such a large shadow. It was always going to be really hard to live up to expectations compared to what we had. There was something, we had Ryan Rhodes, he's running for Congress here in our home state of Iowa, on the show yesterday. And in the context of Congress, he dropped a line that's self-evidently true. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, probably can't do everything, but you have to do something.
Yeah.
Now, that's a fair assessment for basically anything. Fair, maybe not adequate, but it's fair. What is the something that they are working on, that they have done? And when I say something, I mean James Clapper, maybe under federal investigation. There was a couple of others.
That's probably another D.C. case, though, as Rob pointed out. We got to get out of that D.C. district.
Where is the imagination? Where is it? To actually get a conviction on something somewhere. At this point, we're even asking for tax evasion. If you can get James Comey on tax evasion in Florida or Texas or New Hampshire, I don't know.
I'm listening.
If you can, we're asking for crumbs here. Where's the killer instinct, metaphorically, politically speaking? Where is that? Is it in the lights? Is it in the Key and Phil light on the set of Fox News? Is that where your imagination is? It boggles the mind how there's seemingly no self-awareness. And I know that's not a new thing. I know that's not an uncommon thing in this era. But the complete and total divorce nature of where the base is to where Pam Bondi and Kash Patel are just still boggles the mind. There's got to be some presidential accountability coming soon. There has to be.
Use the imagination. Get out of the D.C. district. Get out of the Fulton County area where Letitia James is. Go to Florida. Go after everybody involved, starting with, wasn't that Jack Smith's case too?
Yes.
Rob? Okay. You go into Florida where the Mar-a-Lago raid took place. And that is where you try to plant your legal flag right there. And you try to punish all the way to Jack Smith, everybody involved in that raid. Anybody tell me that's a terrible idea?
Did Biden?
That's an example of you can't do everything, but you can do something. You can do that.
Yeah. Here's probably what did Biden pardon Jack Smith?
That I don't know the answer.
Because that's probably going to be their fig leaf.
All right. Well, then everybody else other than Jack Smith then.
Yeah.
I mean, who were the FBI officers that executed it? I mean, who literally drove the cars? Everybody. 1,600 people they tried to arrest and put in prison for January 6th. 1,600 of our people. 1,600.
So you're saying you're not just fine with the picture of the auto pen on the wall?
No.
That's not good
I'm going to need more. That's it. I'm fine if we're doing stunts like that to in order to grease the skids so we can then do the stuff that needs to be done. But if it's a stunt in and of itself, then that's all that it is. Exit question. I'm putting the over-under. Go ahead.
I was going to say Jack Smith was not pardoned.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Great news.
I'm putting the over-under on Democrats arrested by the midterms at 2.5. Taking the over or the under, Todd?
Under.
Then we're going to lose. I mean, if that's true, we're losing 40 House seats. I'm just telling you right now.
Is it possible to do an answer with a negative number somehow? Because I feel like that's the trajectory.
And then we'll go ahead and we'll have lawfare the other way as they try to impeach Hegseth, Rubio, RFK Jr., and Trump all of 27.
Why am I going to go against the trends? Just like with Sports Bro. Now we're at point shaving, Steve. It gets worse and worse and worse.
We could use a little point shaving in this area. Rob, what about you?
I will go over, but I will also say that none of them will stick because, like what happened with Comey, a judge will throw him out.
Here's the thing. Did we perp walk Comey? No, we just indicted him. Did we put him in a perp walk? Yeah, no perp walk, no humiliation ritual. What did that? So, again.
Nope.
I can't want it. I can't want to win more than the people who are actually on the ballot. I can't want to win more than them, and neither can any of you. We can't want to win more than they do. We can't. More in a moment.
The Steve Deace Show.
Hey, back here on the Steve Deace Show. Don't forget you can join the mission, join the family here at The Blaze. Become a subscriber today at blazetv.com/Deace. Get access to all of the exclusive content that we do each and every day just for you here at blazetv.com/Deace. Use the code Deace. You'll get a discount on your subscription with blazetv.com/Deace. Code Deace. We'll have a ton of coverage of the crucial 2026 midterms. You don't want to miss it. blazetv.com/Deace, code Deace. We welcome back our editor here at The Blaze, Rob Eno, as we continue on with your weekly look at the week that was. Let's get to issue 3. Theoretical question here. Given what we now know about the NATO countries and what's become of them culturally, are we actually better off being aligned with Russia?
Without discussing the cons, as in pros and cons of Russia, let's take a brief stock of so-called prominent NATO allies. We'll begin in the United Kingdom, who just set a record, based on data released this week, on the rate of babies murdered in the country at 23 abortions per 1,000 residents. Germany has so many radical Islamists, it's honestly a surprise when, like in 2025, there wasn't a major terror attack at a Christmas market, though German authorities did foil one late last year. Sweden is on pace to be a Muslim-majority country in about 75 years. And despite these examples, Spain this week is pushing for more immigration because their economy is so horrid. And France, also despite their massive Muslim population, recorded more deaths than births for the first time since World War II last year. And that's not counting baby murder. Europe, and therefore NATO, isn't dying. It's a zombie.
Then there was the story, the leader of the United Arab Emirates putting out the call that they are no longer allowing their students to study abroad in the UK because of how Islamized the UK is, and they're trying to modernize as a Sunni country, and they don't want all that Shia, Islamism that the UK has imported. They don't want that to poison the minds of their young people. So, hey, listen, we live in an imperfect world. You got to make alliances with people that don't align with you all of the time. We did it to win World War II and aligning with Stalin in the first place, right? All right. So that's just the nature of life post Genesis 3, when all creation groans with sin. So if we just did, and I think my street cred of detesting Putin is fairly well established over the years, right? Okay. Yep. All right. So no fanboy here. I'm one of the ones that did not return the phone calls and emails from Russia today that other people did. Okay. I didn't return them. All right. So this is just straight up America first realpolitik, man. Straight up. If the Western European countries are going to behave like Putin, then why in the world are we not better off than just being aligned with Putin instead of them? He's got a way, way higher war chest of natural resources that we could align with and profit with, including crude oil, for example. It might detassel him away from China, for example. They have the largest nuclear arsenal in the world in Russia. I mean, if we're going to do business with people who do not share our worldview, then strategically, it would seem to me, if I just added it up strategically, we're better off taking Russia off the board as a perpetual nemesis adversary than continuing to prop up these Western European communist sacred democracies. Now, I'm a child of the 80s. I hate everything I just said. I hate it all. But I have to live in the world as it is, not as I wanted it to be or preferred it to be or it used to be. So given that, please talk me out of this, Aaron.
Well,
yeah,
they have bears in Russia, which I guess we have bears as well. These are the types of scenarios that you get yourself into, quite frankly, when as a civilization, instead of doing the hard work now, you opt for comfort now. And then you do that for a year, and then another year, and then 10 years, and then 20 years, and then a generation, and then multiple generations. And you end up, in the name of comfort, killing your own offspring and importing people who not only have a differing worldview than you, have a diametrically upside down worldview to your own. And so what you're getting here is a corpse that's being reanimated and zombified. So these are the types of scenarios that you get yourself into when you're trying to pick and choose alliances, and one guy one guy or one player in this scenario is a thug, and you're not really totally sure if you can trust him. But on the other hand, you're not really totally sure you can trust him. And then the other player is that zombified corpse. There are no good options. So this should be a lesson, actually, for the United States and for the deep staters who are listening. If you're going to run for an influence ops, maybe you should do a domestic influence op and turn on the propaganda machine in favor of, reproduction and things like that. That's the whole story here. This is not just a geopolitical story. The story here is a civilizational one that has led us to this point. And much like Anton Chigurh in No Country for Old Men, if your choices brought you to this point, what good were those choices? I know I butchered that quote. That's kind of the taking stock that we need to do civilizationally, because this is not just a simple 2026 geopolitical map question. This is a civilizational question.
So, Rob, we started this segment this year, Deconstructing Tucker, Deconstructing. I think he's deconstructing his worldview. And so we've been following that on the show. But this is in one place maybe where maybe I would find myself in alignment with the Tucker reboot. And again, I hate saying that, but I have to live in the world as it is. And the thing you want to really get Vanta black-pilled on all this is if Russia were to come back and say, it's too late, man. You guys are too soft on Islam and too homo, and we just don't tolerate any of those things over here. And now I'm a broken man, and I'll be in the corner cutting myself, Rob. I'm cutting myself now. You talk while I'm cutting. Go ahead. You talk. I'm cutting.
Yeah, it's craziness. I mean, and to go to your point though, that the child of the '80s, you and I, Red Dawn and Iron Eagle and all all of the jingoistic stuff that we grew up on. The Russia of today isn't the Soviet Union, right? It is a czarist almost Russia. I'm still shocked that Putin didn't marry his daughter off to a Romanov and reinstitute the monarchy, right? Like I thought that was going to happen. But I had a friend, an Orthodox Christian friend, about 10 years ago, ask me, who do you think is the biggest defender of Christianity in the world? And his answer was Putin. I mean, they are almost an ethno-religious state. They're very close to being so. When they went into Syria, they didn't go into Syria, quote unquote, they went into Syria as a crusade that was basically sanctioned by the Russian Orthodox Church, right? I mean, they're nationalists. That's what they are. Do I think that they're trustworthy? No. Do I think that they have more on a social segment with our views? Absolutely. But I don't know if there's actually a good answer to this, right? Like I don't want to be, if you the one country you don't have on here is Argentina, right? Give me the new Argentina with Milei, and I'll, they've got a lot of resources too, and I'll go and jump in with them. But you don't give me that question. Are we better off allying with NATO? Absolutely not. I'm afraid to go with what we do, Steve, to Europe. Because I don't know if I'll be, captured and not allowed to leave. Right? Like, I want to go visit Europe sometime in my life, but I'm afraid to go to the EU with what we do for a living.
100%.
Point blank.
100%.
Point blank.
100%.
Yeah. Because I don't know if I can come
100%
home.
true. Where are you more likely to get arrested for speaking globally on tranny issues?
Europe.
Moscow or Berlin or London?
Anywhere in Western Europe.
And I was just doing a quick search. When you combine both precious metal reserves and crude reserves, Russia's like a combined top 5 country in the world. What are we getting out of propping up these old alliances from the NATO era? Literally anything. What are we getting out of this? Right now, Todd, talk to the Iowa farmer. Just tuned in today, okay? He's got some extra time because it's winter, so it's not planting season yet. We're post-harvest, right? So he got the Iowa farmer got to sleep till like 7 a.m., okay, in January, as opposed to 5 a.m. the rest of the year, right? So he's got a little extra time, and he's turning around listening, all right? Make the case for him why being aligned with Keir Starmer in the UK and Germany, who arrests you if you're not Muslim anymore, okay? Why that we're better off doing that than just declawing Putin as an adversary.
I can't, and that's why, at least as a thought experiment, this is so effective, because we're focusing most of our energy on the absurdity, even in a blind taste test, not knowing who's on the other side. It could be North Korea as an option, but as roll the dice, Europe has become so absurd, we'd probably take our chances at what we had to work with on the other side. So let's make it very specific in terms of the actual matchup you've paired us with. Because this is about what we get.
Yes.
That's what treaties are
That's
about.
all I care about is what we're getting out of it.
So if we're going to be serious about this comparison, that's what we have to talk about. We're vis-a-vis Russia. It's not so much about what we get. It's about what we would have to give them. What would they want from us in such a treaty? Because if you really want to bring it to the table, that's what you have to answer in this. What would Russia want? Because yes,
what if what
absurd.
they want? That's a great point. What if it's the exact same thing the NATO countries want? What if they want us? What if Russia's deal is drop NATO and replace NATO with us, and whatever you're doing for them, do it for and with us? What if that were the deal?
That's dicey.
You think so?
Well, you have to. If you go to war with one, I don't know the exact legal language, but the part of NATO has always been.
I'm pretty confident that, again, man, I'm going to talk myself into this, and I'm just going to jump off. I'm going to go from cutting myself to jumping off my own building here by lunch. Okay. But how many countries are going to be anxious to go to war with the U.S. and Russia as a combined alliance? I'm thinking that's a pretty small number, kind of thinking. Maybe it's just me, but kind of thinking there's not a lot of nations just lining up to step to, a Russo-Anglo alliance. Thoughts?
It's just.
I mean, a lot of people like living,
Where I don't know is we pretty much know what motivates the median European leadership class.
This is a great point you're making here.
We pretty much know what motivates them.
What's really the motivation over there?
And I have a name for you. It's Yuval Noah Harari. That's what motivates them.
We know that's a negative ghostwriter.
I don't know fully what motivates Vladimir Putin.
How about let's just do some diplomatic finding out. Maybe I'd be at least.
You'd want to.
Let's just at least find out.
You'd want.
And maybe the answer is just a different form of nihilism. We just have to walk away entirely. And I'm okay. But don't you think we should at least have, for the opportunity cost here, we should at least find out?
Yes.
Okay. Great points by the two of you there at the end. Let's get to the exit question. Where do you think people like us would be more free? The UK, Germany, Qatar, or Russia?
Living hard but free in Siberia. That's easy. Seriously, you could live hard, but you would be free in Siberia.
Agreed.
All right, so Russia's his answer, just not the way I thought. What about you, Rob, quickly?
Yeah, I unfortunately think it's Russia. I'd rather be in the Black Sea area, but yeah, I guess it would be Siberia would be, in an Uncle Ted type cabin in the middle of Siberia.
Go ahead, Todd. I'm tapping.
You got to cook that game meat pretty good, though. I hear the worms are pretty bad.
I'm looking for a vein, Todd. What's your answer?
That's a sign of growth.
I'm seeing if I can just bleed out right here, maybe. I'm going to have to go home and watch Rocky 14 times on loop just to recenter myself.
This is what a cucked West has done to itself.
If eyes can change, then again, I start thinking about Rocky. If eyes can change, youth can change. Let's get to our kicker topic. In honor of Ashley St. Clair. Another tragic sentence I never thought I'd say. Name another crazy woman on the right you should definitely not impregnate, Todd.
Lizzie Scriptura.
Aaron.
She goes by other names too.
Aaron.
That Ariel Morgan Ariel individual, because I'm pretty convinced it's just some dude sitting.
Some Indian dude?
Not in India, probably in Saudi Arabia or Qatar. But every time that account pops up on it's just the most vapid, yet somehow simultaneously just brutally, just mean. It's just mean? Just vapidly, vacuously, stupidly caustic.
Okay.
All the time.
Rob, what's your answer, and why should it be Candace Owens?
I'm going to go with Blair White, because, as Lord Nefarious says, it won't happen. I was trying to figure out the answer that was going to get me the least amount of trouble.
This might be my favorite kicker question we've ever asked.
I'm trying to figure out the answer that will get me the least in trouble. I was going to give another answer, and Aaron can tell you who, but
I'll have him tell me off the air.
One of our coworkers told me it's probably not the right answer because I might end up dead. So
all right, I'll have Aaron tell me off the air because we prefer you alive, very much so. All right, let's get to predictions. Todd, go.
Oh my God, I lost my train.
Aaron, go.
No,
all right, Todd, go.
I got it. Ashley. Speaking of, it's inspired. Ashley St. Clair has only just begun to fight. She's actually going to run as a Democrat for president of the United States.
Okay. That's not nearly as weird to me as you might think. I could see it. I mean, she's with her. I mean,
Woman scorned.
The Marjorie Taylor Greene,
Totally
Ashley
not.
St. Clair view panel is just a few clicks away.
Yes.
Indeed. What about you, Aaron?
Elon Musk will profess faith in Christ by the end of this calendar year.
Finally, some good news. That would be incredible. Rob, what about you? What's yours?
You know mine, and I'm going to get fewer laughs that the New England Patriots will win their 7th Super Bowl in February.
All right. Thank you for that. Although I got to say, last time we had you on, you did drop some Patriots jingoism, and we laughed at you, and they won like the next 8 games or something in a row. So what do we know? Okay. All right. I'm going to make another prediction, man. I just don't want this to be true. But I think the Iranian regime is going to sadly survive these protests because there isn't a discernible person or persons that can rally the people to govern the nation yet if they go. And I think there's no way, we thought all along, we've been saying this since Monday, eventually there would come a point to push it over the top. We have to put our thumb on the scale, right? Okay. And you think about what I said last year about the combined Israeli-U.S. operation on Iran's nuclear facilities. If the first phase of that, the Israeli phase, was not done with devastating precision, there's just no way Trump is going to invest any of his political capital in the next phase. He's going to tell the Israelis, hey, you didn't deliver on your deliverables, so we're out, right? Okay. And I just think the art of the deal guy is going to sit there and say, my heart, I think Trump's heart is, we would have Moabbed everybody who's even looked at a Khomeini once by now. I think that's where his heart is really at. But you have to acknowledge who governs a country of 70 million people when this is over. And, I can't blow up my entire Arab alliance because I don't know the answer to that question right now, So that's where I sadly think this is going to go. Hope I'm wrong about that. Rob, good to see you as always. Thank you, man.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
You bet. It'll be your turn when we come back. Some Feedback Friday. Stay tuned. Back here with Hour 2, live and on demand on Blaze TV, radio, and podcast with Todd Erzin and Aaron McIntyre. I am Steve Deace. You can let us know what you think about what we think via the stevedeace.com inbox by emailing the show, steve@stevedeace.com. That's DEACE. Like us on Facebook, Me, We, and Gab. You can follow me at Steve Deace Show on X, Instagram, and TikTok. Please subscribe to our new YouTube channel, at Deace Show on YouTube. That's at Deace Show on YouTube. And then if you wouldn't mind, if you love the podcast version, thank you. We love you because you're the biggest part of our audience. Please let everyone else know that you love us too by leaving us a 5-star review. Tens of thousands of you have done that for us. Thank you very much. You can also hit subscribe, or if you're on Apple iTunes, follow. And that way you will know for sure that every time we do one of these new episodes, it's for sure right there in your podcast feed. And many more of you have done that for us. So thank you. We could use all the help we could get these days. So we really appreciate it. As we appreciate our friends over at Chirp as well. We are in the season, tis the season of New Year's resolutions. And if you're trying to get active, you're trying to get healthier, trying to lose weight, I've been where you are, right? I get it completely. And when you go too long and you let yourself go too far, particularly as we get older, man, your body will rebel right away. Those muscles have atrophied. Maybe you're out of alignment. And you get to the point now where I've got to break through so that my body will want this and I can keep doing it. And there are preventative health measures and devices out there that claim to help you, but how do you know for sure? Well, just try the stuff that we've tried and we use here. That's the stuff with our friends over at Chirp. All right. Long-lasting pain relief from Chirp. They've got all kinds of products. For example, check out the Chirp Contour. It's a decompression massage table that provides professional-grade relief from the comfort of your home with spinal decompression, soothing massage, relaxing heat to ease pressure, loosen stiff muscles, relieve soreness with personalized presets and customizable treatments. These are the kinds of things that you can do to make sure that you build your body back up now that you're tearing it down. Okay, you build it back up so you can then keep building it back up, because eventually, if you hang in there, right? If you hang in there long enough, then your body will say, all right, we like this now. We like these changes. Let's roll. All right. But these kinds of preventative health treatments and measures are key in getting your body there. I just speak from a lot of experience. All right. So here's what you want to do. Go to gochirp.com/Steve. CHIRP is where you want to go. All right. And check that out there. There's several other devices you can check out. I'm taking the mini rolling power massager with me on the road. Took it to America Fest. I'm taking it to DC here in a few days. All right, so I'm a huge believer in that one too, okay? Sometimes with hotel beds, man, or sitting on airplanes, you never really know. And you can just throw that thing in your suitcase, even a carry-on. GoChirp.com/Steve is where you want to go. Go chirp like a birdie chirp. GoChirp.com/Steve. All right, are we ready for some Feedback Friday?
You bet.
All right, so last week we started off hearing from a young woman, right?
Yeah.
I thought this week maybe we'd start off hearing from a young man.
Okay.
I'm a 21-year-old man who graduated from a private undergrad university with my bachelor's degree in biblical and theological studies, and I'm currently working towards my master's in theology as well. At 21, bro, that's impressive.
Yeah.
That's impressive at 31 or 41, let alone 21. My wife and I got married last May, and we immediately moved from Arizona to Dallas for me to continue my seminary journey. From an early age, the Lord placed a calling on my life towards pastoral ministry. He's given me a passion for teaching and preaching the Word of God, as well as a deep love for the local church. I grew up homeschooled and well-educated in politics and the Bible, which has grounded me in conservative theology, politics, and culture. Since the martyrdom of Charlie Kirk and the subsequent revival moment and movement, I've begun to realize that more than anything, we desperately need the church to step into this moment if we're going to turn it into a movement. People are starving for the Word of God to feed their souls and to equip them to engage the culture around us. God showed us at Charlie's memorial service that He is ready to transform the lives of those who are willing to receive it. I believe He has moved on from dead churches who have promised the mission of the kingdom of God for the sake of who have compromised the mission of the kingdom of God for the sake of comfort and a false sense of peace. And now we are observing that private organizations like TPUSA are the ones who are bringing the gospel into this moment rather than too many local churches. Given what time it is and the gravity of the situation, I realize that if I'm going to be a pastor of a church and I'm going to lead, feed, and equip God's people, I have to be willing to teach them to actually engage the culture and the issues of the day with the Word of God, especially since we're under attack as believers. Unfortunately, this is a very unpopular idea in most of our churches. This unpopularity is so widespread, in fact, that I've come to a bit of a dilemma in how to serve God and His people in the times in which we live. As I consider how and where to pastor in this way, I run into some significant obstacles. I grew up going between Southern Baptist and non-denominational churches. Well, since my last experience with Southern Baptist, I have no desire to return to that fold. I feel like I'm faced with three potential options of where I can pastor. One, I can plant a church. Two, I can seek out one of the very few around the country who already know what time it is. Three, I can try to change the current ethos in an already established church that generally avoids confrontation with divisive topics. I will go wherever the Lord calls, but I wanted to ask if you had any analytical or practical advice on this subject for myself and other young and up-and-coming pastors who know what time it is and want to do something about it. I recognize that people are starving for the Word of God, but I also recognize that most established churches in this country have, as you call, the nicer-than-God attitude, and they will just truly not disciple their people. My conscience will not let me give people watered-down Bible teaching. Neither the Lord nor my conscience will let me. Undoubtedly, though, this is going to make too many ministry opportunities very difficult. But I have to remain faithful to the Word of God. That's from Jared. Well, first of all, Jared, that was outstanding, number one. You have the right and proper order of things, which is that you are accountable to God and His Word first and foremost. And I'm going to tell you right now, I am living proof, despite my obvious imperfections, despite failures and near failures in my personal life, despite my, at times, untamed tongue, even at the age of 52, live on the air, and all of the other various fallacies and weaknesses I bring to the table that Jesus had to go to the cross for, that are my contribution to his sacrifice. I am living proof. The one thing I have done right throughout my career is as best as I can, and I understand how. At any given moment, you will see, if you followed my career from the day it started on June 12, 2006, you will see that my desire has been to make the Word of God and the kingdom of God great. That's been the lead desire that I have had. And I think that God has honored that despite my imperfections. And that I have a career where I've never successfully applied for a job ever in this industry. All of the advancements in my career occurred because somebody I previously did not know called me up one day and said, "Would you like us to advance your career?" Or if I did know them, they called me with something I didn't know they were able to do. And I mean, I could just trace this right on down the line. From the day I moved to WHO Radio on June 12, 2006 until today, January 16th, 2026. This is my 20th year in broadcasting. Or 20th year full-time in politics, I should say. But this even goes back to when I was on Sports Talk Radio when I started there in 1999. Even in those cases, I never successfully applied for a job. Someone called me out of the blue and offered me one. So my career is a testimony that if you put the Word and kingdom of God first, he will honor that. Things have not always been easy. Things have not always been simple. I've nearly gone bankrupt several times. I've been on networks that nearly went bankrupt and then eventually did. But through all of that, God has maintained me and just continued to open doors for me. And so, on the authority of his word and the power of how I've seen it work itself out in my own testimony, Jared, I would say to you and the other young men like you looking to take over and do better than the previous generations, which we desperately need, have the same confidence in God, provided you put the same emphasis on faithfulness to him and his word. And if you start there, then it won't matter where it looks like or how it goes. Now, I can give you some generalities. As a general rule, God does not pour new wine into old wineskins. As a general rule. General rule, I mean, when God is sovereign, though, he can take dry bones and make them live again, right? There can be revivals in churches and denominations that we cannot possibly foresee and laugh and mock at the idea of it now, right? Mm-hmm. And God can choose to sovereignly do that because we would then say, there's just no way there's a revival in the United Methodist Church unless God himself is doing it. The infrastructure's not there. You see what I'm saying? It just can't happen, right? Okay. Yeah. Maybe on your side of the street, you'd be like, there's just no way the Jesuits are actually preaching, the proper catechesis here again. So it has to be a movement of God because the Jesuits just were never going to do this on their own. Fair comparison, maybe? Okay. So that can happen, but if it does, it's going to be God or doing it on his own. As a general rule, and quoting from the Lord himself, God does not pour new wine into old wineskins. So if you had me rank these three options, again, as a general rule, I can't see the future. I may have some prophetic gifting, but it's not in the term prophet as we would traditionally know it. I'm not giving some special insight about the future or how God is going to act. That's a unique revelation to me to impart to you. That's kind of what I mean by that. I don't have that office. All right. And so these are generalities. But I'd put number 3, trying to change the current ethos of an already established church. You properly ranked it at number 3. And I mean, like last with a bullet. Like only if there was no other option to ever do ministry for the rest of my life would I try that. All right. I mean, I think with a lot of churches, and I think when you see something like we saw with Charlie's Memorial, where you're getting more of an exegesis on St. Stephen from Don Jr. than you are Pastor Don at most of your churches. I mean, that's the kind of stuff to me that just kind of shows that the Lord has just kicked the dust off his sandals and moved on kind of thing, right? You know? So I can't say there aren't any. I mean, I go to a church right now where Pastor Jesse will tell you, prior to COVID, he was a complete and total wuss. He was the very pastor I did shows about every day. And he's not alone. There's a group of pastors. I've spoken in several of these churches around the country where COVID woke that pastor up. And the Lord grabbed him by the throat and said, hey, you're the reason that this is all happening right now. And they greatly changed. So it can happen. All right. But I would even say that this deserves to be last on your list, even more so post-COVID. Even more so post the martyring of my friend and the most public martyring of a Christian leader in many of our lifetimes in Charlie Kirk. Like if the government shutting churches down but keeping strip clubs open and watching the one Christian leader we had who was truly going out and trying to persuade people every day in dens of iniquity get shot in the throat for doing so. If that didn't wake your pastor up, I don't even know what would it take to wake him up at that point, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So again, I'm not God. I cannot speak in broad strokes and thus speak as Zarathustra. I don't get to do that. But you're asking me, Steve, for my best analysis, and my best analysis would be that don't waste the best, hungriest years of your life trying to make Pastor Sweater Vest consider, a new attire. I would seek out one of the churches that does know what time it is, and then I would also actively look at planting my own thing. Especially number 1, because here's what I can tell you. Again, this is 20 years now I've been doing this full time. There's never been more hunger for me and our show from our audience to hear the Word of God and applied teaching of it as part of our everyday content. It's that desire for that's never been higher than right now. Never been higher. There is a market. And it's a booming market. There's a hunger for it. So, I just had a pastor friend of mine who is struggling in his current church. And I finally said to him, I said, hey, where do you think you're going to suffer for the gospel with either one of these options? Staying at a church where the elder board has completely turned on you and trying to make your life a living hell and drive you out, or just leave on your own and go plant your own church. It's the struggle bus in either scenario. Okay? So which one, just based on your understanding of the Word of God, which one do you think God is more likely? Which investment of your time, as Paul says, to redeem the time, for the days are evil, which investment of your time do you think is going to be more likely that God's going to give you the ROAS there that you're looking for, give you the ROI that you're looking for? Which one? Just based on how he operates. Is it more or less likely that that elder board who is turning on you, and he's in the state of Colorado, where at any moment the state could just come and take their kids away from them because they won't trans them? I mean, if your elder board sees that coming from your state legislature and their reaction and response is, well, I think we need more Hawaiian shirts here. I mean, that's their reaction to that. I mean, I could actually, if anything, I could make an argument that the Lord just removed his lampstand.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And, so there's going to be a struggle session here one way or the other. You can have all the emotional and mental struggles of trying to work around all these albatrosses called your elder board, and then take all that angst and everything home to your kids every night, your wife, or the immediate financial struggle of, we're just going to go plant our own thing. We'll see how long it takes for it to operate on its own and, make it its own independent church where, I can actually not have to do this bivocationally. But either way, there's a struggle. You do not see typically a lot of revival of aging, decrepit, surrendered structures throughout the history of the church. You just don't. I'm not saying it never happens, but it rarely happens. You guys want to add anything to that at all before I move on?
I'm good.
I'll add this. I've got a buddy who already has the degrees that you are either in possession of or still pursuing. Wants to do the same thing, has the same heart as you, and God really hasn't opened doors for him yet. But if you're around this guy, it is hard to miss. It is hard to miss that he takes his joy in the Lord. So there might be some wandering in the desert for a while for you. It might be. Maybe you'll find a congregation really, really fast or find a position really fast. But the bottom line, what I hear through that letter is that you're not looking, yes, there's a career vocational aspect to this, but that's not your primary outlook on this. This is a calling first. This is a calling, and I really appreciate that. And I think wherever you go, whether you're wandering in the desert or whether God is going to give you an audience of people to minister to pour into, you're going to have a problem wherever you go. And it's a word I just dropped. People.
Yes.
You're going to have a people problem. My pastor this last weekend, during his sermon, dropped, I think it's 2 Corinthians 12, 10, 12, somewhere along those lines, where Paul says, I will gladly spend and be spent for your sake.
Mm-hmm.
If I love more, does that mean he will love me less? That's kind of the attitude I think that you have to have, regardless of where you are, whether you're wandering in the desert, working at a job that that's not your desire right now. I mean, look at Charlie Kirk. You knew him right on the cruise campaign, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's where I first met him.
Would you have ever imagined?
No.
In 15 years.
He was clearly a go-getter, but no, I didn't think that he might have ended up being the next Billy Graham.
In 10 years, doing what he did.
Yeah.
Faithful, persistence, and meeting people where they are and loving people. It's amazing, miraculous, you might say, what God can do through individuals like that. So that's all I had to add.
You saying something that made me think of one thing I'll say. I am Catholic, so not all my thinking is relevant to your concerns. But you have to look in the mirror and tell yourself a very honest thing about your planning. We don't live in a Christian country. Be brutally honest about that, because if you're a good pastor, if you're not risking being fired on the regular, you're not a good pastor.
Oh, it's the line I've quoted from several times. The problem with America is nobody wants to arrest or kill their pastors today.
And I understand because you love your wife and the kids you hopefully are going to have. You're looking for some kind of security. Think having the 20-year church plan in this country, I don't think you can if you're doing an honest reading of the gospel, which you are now trying to be in charge of telling people about. This thing is on a razor's edge, brother.
All the more reason to seek for things that are certainly aligned with you, or to just go out and do your own alignment because of what you just said. This note from Ryan, I think, is cash money. I believe the Maduro, Iran, and Greenland conversations and situations would be more acceptable and tolerable if people were perp-walked, and if more people, or any people, were perp-walked and put in orange jumpsuits that are responsible for being a threat to this country. We lose in November, this keeps up, and no one is held accountable for COVID, Epstein, elections, assassinations, assassination attempts, etc. Bongino can type all the strong words he wants, block all the people he wants, and everyone can get mad at Nick Fuentes and Tucker and Candace, and even rightly so, for their narratives, but that isn't going to sway anyone's mind when Trump is not himself on the ballot. People want accountability. You can be America first by conquering, sure, but just because your yard is manicured and your house has nice paint on the outside is all meaningless if you're allowing the inside to still be a corrupt cesspool. I mean, Ryan is exactly correct.
I agree.
I just have to tell you, I don't see, barring an economic revival that goes beyond just fixing where we are. Like I'm talking something historic. Like I'm talking Reagan 80s, .com. Those are the two big, in you and I's lifetimes, economic surges of America in you and I's lifetimes. One of those didn't even occur in Aaron's lifetime. He wasn't even born yet. Okay? So unless what we see over the next 6 months is that, then I don't foresee how we can possibly win back the House without the Rogan, Sean Ryan, I guess I'll throw him into the group now, the Joe Rogan, Sean Ryan, Theo Vaughn, bro dude listener vote. I don't see how it's possible. Do you?
No,
because the reason you needed that level of economic, because you would so dominate among normies that if those guys just don't care and don't show up to vote, you could still win because you're just dominating normie voters because you made their way of life so much easier.
Even though I think the thinking that I used, it's not without. It wasn't insane to think that in 2022, of course, what we're offering, even if it's just bland, is better than pure evil.
Yes.
But I have to learn the lesson that was learned in 2022.
I agree.
And people are.
And I'm factoring that into my analysis here too. So go ahead. Yeah.
People are going to do what you're saying. They're not going to let anything resembling even. There wasn't even a red whimper then. It was just like, we're giving you the middle finger because we think you're cowards, we think you're liars, we think you're hacks, whatever. And so there we are. You're going to get more evil.
I think, especially because let's say the economy, listen, if the economy is where, if the perception of the economy, when I say the economy, I mean not the stock market or GDP, okay? The kinds of things, have those up here metrics filter down to how the average American household that we could possibly get to vote for us feels about their own situation. That's how I define economy, all right? Or the Democrat term affordability, which is, to give them credit, was very good branding on their part. If it's terrible, none of this matters. We're getting creamed, no matter what we do. Right? If it's terrible, all right.
Probably,
if the perception of it at the kitchen table level maintains somewhere around where it is right now, we're getting drilled no matter what we do.
There's still enough time left and very big variables. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I understand the ballpark you're playing, and I do.
Okay. If it's rebounding, which to me now, this is what I think is the most the third scenario is it's morning in America again, and why didn't we all buy Amazon stock in 1999 when we had a chance? All right. I don't think that scenario is very likely either.
No.
Okay. So I think if that happens, then a lot of what we're talking about is also irrelevant. In other words, if we have one extreme or another, what we're talking about here is irrelevant. Probably. If things have not significantly improved, this is probably irrelevant. And if things have significantly improved economically, it's probably irrelevant.
Yes.
Okay. All right. The most likely scenario, and when I mean most likely, I mean like way most likely. Like I would say 70, 15, 15. The two extremes are 15% odds, I would say right now, just spitballing it. And the most likely scenario is the middle one. That's about 70%, which is that things are improving. But it's still very subjective that they've improved enough for a critical mass of voters to vote our way.
Right.
But they might be open if the messaging is right. Okay. So we're kind of in a gray area of,
yes,
the game's winnable, still wouldn't favor us, but it's not a huge upset if we can pull this thing out, kind of a thing. All right. If that's true, and that is by far the most likely scenario, which is what I think sitting here on January the 16th, then this conversation becomes very significant then.
Oh, yes. Then, yeah.
And because one of the arguments that you're already hearing on our side, and I've been making this argument since last year, if they win the midterms, much of the Trump presidency is over, and it's just an impeach-a-palooza, right?
Yes.
I mean, J.D. Vance said that in the interview last week.
Correct. How many of our own people are going to say, you're right, but then you didn't perp walk anybody, so why do I care? Nobody was held accountable for anything, so why do I care? You see what I'm trying to say?
Oh, yeah.
Because I kind of feel like you're at the point that all the people that would be persuaded by that argument were already going to vote for us no matter what. You know what I'm trying to say? No matter what happened. All right. And so there's no gain there. We're giving a message to a group of people. The only people accepting that message at that point are the people that were just going to show up and vote no matter what. It doesn't gain us anything that we currently don't have. Right. We have to have some results here. We have to. And here's the thing. The scenario that we have the least control over, in my view, particularly since we have the tariff ruling of the Supreme Court sitting out there dangling over our heads like a sword of Damocles, the scenario we have the least control over is the most beneficial one. That we'd have a historic post, World War II level economic surge that makes a lot of these fights irrelevant at that point. That's the one we have the least amount of control whether we can engineer or not. The one that is the most likely to happen is the one we have the most control over whether we can engineer or not. And that is that it's improving, but it's not significantly enough that it's a tipping point. But at least we're back in the game. Meat's back on the menu, right? We're in the fight here. We can win. Well, one of your messages would be, well, if they get control, they're just going to impeach everybody. They're just going to put people in prison. What did you do to counter that? That we know. That's why we voted for you guys the last time. And what did you guys do? Nothing? Okay, cool. I'm just going to go download Sean Ryan's last 4-hour interview on a show because it's way more compelling than your election pitches at this point. Right?
Yes.
That cannot happen. Which is why I'm raising a stink about it on January 16th. Because if I'm still talking about it on June 16th or July 16th, I can promise you, pick your J month, those are too late. It's too late then. Because the problem is if you do it then they just counter the normies with, see, they're just doing this because they're losing the election. It's just a desperate ploy. You see what I'm saying? We have a window here. We have some still moral high ground where most more normies aren't thinking about the midterm elections. You start getting into later in the year and then you start pulling these stunts. And then the blowback potential is way higher of it's just a stunt. That's all that it is. So it's like when you watch your favorite team and you see the defense has everybody at the line of scrimmage. Aaron knows this experience a lot as an Iowa football fan. And you're in 13 personnel with 3 tight ends. And you're just counting the numbers, Aaron, right? You're just counting the screen. Let me see. They've got 9 guys at the line of scrimmage. We've got 6 blocking. And we're going to try to just run against that? I don't think we can block 9 guys with 6. How many times have you done that over the years as an Iowa fan?
A lot too many.
Yeah. That's how I feel right now. I can see right now the play we're running is not going to work. And you're just like screaming at the screen, don't run this play. Call a timeout. Call it audible. It's not going to work. That's kind of how I feel right now.
The Steve Deace Show.
Hey, reminder about our friends over at Jace Medical. They want to make sure that you're ready for the next time. Come on, man. That can never happen here. Happens here again. So you can get the Jace case of emergency medications. That's the OG that they launched with when they came on board here at the Blaze several years ago. But now they've got all kinds of other preparedness needs out there. First aid kits, emergency kinds of cases as well. They have really expanded the menu there at Jace to make you as prepared to take control of your health and your family's health, particularly in a time of crisis than ever before. You can expand your Jace case, by the way, to customizable options, just to make sure you've got things like, say, ivermectin and others. So enter the promo code DACE at checkout at jace.com, J-A-S-E, promo code D-E-A-C-E, promo code D-E-A-C-E at JASE.com. Make sure you get a discount on your order with that promo code and go to jace.com, promo code DACE. All right. I think this question from James Harbin is a fascinating thought experiment. So let's play with this one for a while, okay? Do you think we would have gotten better results from the Department of Justice if Matt Gaetz was the Attorney General? Now remember, the former congressman from Florida was the original nominee for Attorney General, okay? So first, let me give you my own overall thoughts on Gaetz so you can factor my own perspective on him into your analysis I'll give on your question. I don't really know the guy at all. I have people I know and respect who like the guy and who really don't, and think he's a sleaze. One person I know that really likes the guy is Chip Roy. He worked very closely with him in Congress. In Congress, Matt was pretty much on the right side of every fight in Congress. The fights that mattered. He was pretty much on the right side of all of them. The only interaction with Matt I have ever had is we did a fundraising teleconference for Chip in his 2024 primary when Trump was trying to take him out for opposing him in the presidential primary with DeSantis. And Matt logged on and joined us and helped us raise money for Chip against Trump. So that's the only interaction with him, and that was just 10 minutes on a shared teleconference together. So I've never met him in person. Believe me, I've heard stories. I've also heard good things. I'm not really sure what to think. We've not really even talked about him a lot, even privately as a show, all that much. By the way, he's not accused of being a pedophile, and I'm very adamant that we have to get these terms correct. We have to bring the term pederast back again, right? And applying pedophile to men having sex with 16-year-old girls is exactly what the Rainbow Jihad wants. The Rainbow Jihad got rid of the term pederast because it was essentially the scientific term for the grooming that they do. And so now we just call everything pedophilia. It's not, right? Pedophilia is sexual attraction and action upon prepubescent minors. Pederasty is the sexual attraction to and the sexual grooming of pubescent or post-pubescent minors. And it's very important to bring that term back because the reason we got rid of it, just like I told you, the term retard we got rid of it so that the people that just wanted to kill all the kids with Down syndrome didn't have to hear you say it anymore. They didn't really care about the kids, right? All right. The reason we got rid of pederast as a term, all the reasons we got rid of it were bad. And it's what you see all the time in the homosexual movement where they take 15, 16, 17-year-old boys and groom them into being gay. So what Gates is accused of is pederasty, okay? Now, I've always been of the opinion if they thought they had all this evidence on him, then indict him, right? I mean, the Biden administration was indicting ham sandwiches on a frequent basis. They never indicted him. So, on the other hand, I also don't think people just give up a congressional pension to do a show for the One America News Network and walk away from being the nominee for Attorney General unless they're confident either they don't have the votes or the reasons they don't have the votes is going to come out. You know what I'm trying to say here? So I don't really know. I don't know if the guy's pure as the driven snow or everybody as sleazy as the rumor. I don't know the answer to that. But that's kind of my background thoughts on him, which are limited, as has been my exposure. But it does factor into my opinion because I could view this both ways. You could say that if Gates had been confirmed, then and I don't know the answer, but you could make the case that at that point, he would feel as if I'm playing with house money at this point. So let head roll. You could also say maybe he cut a deal with see, how did he get confirmed to get this post is my point. Did he cut a deal with somebody who previously was going to vote against him? And now he's compromised, right? And so you're getting a largely Bondi-esque performance in this post. In other words, very disappointing because he's compromised and doesn't want this stuff about his personal life to come out. I don't know the answer to that because I don't know. What do you guys think? It's an interesting thought experiment, but I really don't know how to answer it.
I think the Democrats' response to him being nominated means it's an obvious yes that he would have been better.
Okay.
Not because he's a good person. If they thought about him like he was a giant joke and no threat to them, they would have let him go and they would have hung Trump with him later on.
Good point.
They actually thought that he was just going to just start going Yosemite Sam on them, so he had to go.
I've seen no evidence that he would show any more competence than Pam Bondi. The only thing going for him is speculation, which is basically what we're talking about here.
Yeah, the whole thing's a thought experiment.
So
yeah.
I don't think he would have been much different, honestly. I'd like to, you know what? I'll give him this. I'd like to find out.
That's true. I mean, I think you guys saw my reaction the minute I heard it was Pam Bondi. At least with Gates, I think this is a debatable point. Bondi has been establishment Romney-type Republican her entire career. And she just figured out the last few years that if she can just glom onto the Trump network by, slurping Trump and not deliver any results to the base and get away with it. And that's what she's largely been doing since that humiliation ritual she put a bunch of our influencers through about this time last year with the so-called Epstein files that weren't. All right, let's move on. Ryan says, Architectural Digest just put out an article showcasing people who are moving for political reasons. And the examples they used were an abortion professional who went from Tennessee to Colorado, a parent of a tranny who went from Indiana to Minnesota, a libertarian politician who went from Maine to New Hampshire, and a realtor who went from California to Idaho. And he asks, maybe the balkanization you called for is happening more than we thought. Well, these are anecdotal examples, but they do affirm a premise, Ryan, which is the best way to enforce the balkanization is social conservative policy. I mean, the Miami Herald has run, I can't tell you how many stories in the last 2 years, just wringing their hands about people who are moving out of Florida because it's too socially conservative. And of course, our response to that would be, your terms are acceptable, right? That the best way to do the self-sorting the country desperately needs is through social conservative policy. When we get control in these red states, we act on it with social conservative policy. Because a lot of these people will self-deport when they can't live out their own demonic religion. So I don't know if we're doing it. These are just anecdotal examples, but what your article points out that you're citing, brother, is that is the path to getting to some of the places we want to be. All right, so start looking at your red states and ask yourself, do we really want to make life comfortable for the very kind of people we don't want to move here? Because guess what? That's what they do to you in their blue states. Todd, I can tell right now you want to pounce, so go ahead.
Well, it's a start. I just think that it's, at some level, it's still apples and oranges, because when the people, the lefties from Florida leave and go wherever they go to, there's the brown person who's been here for like 2 years, they're instantly running for something, getting involved, being propped up as something like that. The people on the right who are leaving and going to someplace more conservative, but they're almost always moving not because they want to get involved. I want to be left alone. I want to be left alone. And they don't get involved. And they just go back to the exact same lifestyle that, quite frankly...
Yes, I want to be left alone loses in every history book ever written.
You if you're going to leave, good. But learn the lesson that just finding your own private Idaho, it not only is it not good enough, but it's not an American ideal. Do you want to live in some form of democracy or don't you? This is the game. Like, for Aaron earlier today on the show was talking about the best case scenario would be living in Siberia amongst the choices. He was talking about living hard. No matter where you don't have to live that hard, but you do have to stay involved. The amount of you who actually just me watching how you live your life, no matter what you say, what you do, you really don't mind being ruled. You really don't mind living in a vassal state. You'd prefer it. You just want a different vassal ruler than the one we have now. That's not being an American. This one, I want to be left alone stuff is just, it's cowardly and it's soft.
The letter that we let off with, the young man, 21 years old, getting these impressive degrees and has a great outlook on his calling in life. And you dropped this phrase, the problem with America is that we don't have enough pastors who the state wants to do away with. You put it more eloquently. You know what would produce more pastors, I think? It's a symbiotic relationship, but you know what would produce more pastors that fit the bill of being, let's just say, a problem to the state? The type of people who, even though they don't have the calling of vocation of pastor, have the same degree of intent as that young man who wrote in every area of life. That we're not just doing things for the purpose of doing things. That's what Todd is. That's what Todd's articulating. A dirty term, a term that was made dirty, but the author or the speaker of the term was kind of right on the money, at least in the context when he spoke it. Listless vessels. That's what Todd is talking about there. There's no heading, there's no mooring, there's no wind beneath the wings. We have to be intentional. No matter if we're in a red state that the blue staters want to move to, we need to make sure you're shoring up the defenses there. You need to make sure that that your local school board, that your local boards of all types are actually watertight. You got to be doing the work. And yeah, I would semantically disagree with Todd. No matter where you live, whether it's in an apartment in Brussels, whether it's in the countryside of the United Kingdom, still picturesque, whether it's living physically hard in Siberia, you're called to a life of hardness, of living hard, one way or another. You might have more creature comforts, but that doesn't mean the challenge before you is any less difficult or any more difficult. Some challenges, some times in life, some times of period are definitely more trying than others. I'm not saying that, but you're not just called to a life of just going along to get along. That's the bottom line here, regardless of any anecdotal or real hard mass data on who's moving where and for what purpose.
It's very well said. Let's go next to I'll let that be the last word. Let's go next to Marilyn Reed, and we'll close with this. How would you answer those who might ask you, are you willing for Noah to be drafted for the situation in Venezuela? I know you mentioned this many times about not wanting him to go to places like Ukraine. I get that and agree. But I'm sure I'm not the only one wondering what you might be thinking about having him to go to Venezuela. I'm genuinely interested in how you'd respond. I have a grandson who could be of draft age in the next 2 years. Go hard and finish well. We've already dealt with Venezuela.
Yeah, this whole premise.
We've already dealt with it. We got in there, got rid of the guy, and just put our own puppets in charge and pump the oil out. So, empire. I'm sorry, Marilyn. I know your question's sincere. I'm not trying to be flippant, but I mean, we doesn't require any further investment in resources in Venezuela. Not to mention the strategic benefit to my country of locking down the largest crude oil pipeline in the entire hemisphere is a way more valuable asset than whatever the hell is happening in Ukraine. I still don't know or understand 3 years later.
Aaron, I'll let you close. I just want to say quickly, we got no shot at empire if we have a Supreme Court that rules that a president doesn't have the power to do tariffs. So we might as well just even stop. If that ruling comes down, forget about talking about empire because it's not possible, because apparently that's just, we're going to continue to let the
John
judges
Roberts,
make stuff up.
Yeah, the judges are saying, look at me. I'm the emperor now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And that's what they've been doing.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
This entire premise, I stated that I was totally fine. I think I stated it right. I just stated that what the United States has shown in the past 6 months are terrifying shows of military prowess. It was something along those lines. And somebody responded back and said, well, what has the last year of displays, feats of strength actually gotten for us? Well, number one, I remember shock and awe. The primary, yes, it was targeting certain things, but the primary, at least the way it was billed, and certainly in the aftermath, shock and awe preceding the invasion of Iraq was primarily meant to be what? Psychological. That's how it was billed, anyway. So I never said I was in favor of nation building in the Middle East to begin with. That's what the premise is.
Right.
This is not that. Secretary of State Rubio, J.D. Vance, they have disabused that notion that this is anything close to what we tried to do in the Middle East. Number two, I just want to remind you, what was the mission in Operation Midnight Hammer? To cripple Iran's nuclear weapons ambition. We crippled Iran's nuclear weapons ambition. And then World War III started. Nope. And then we got boots on the ground. Nope. Endless war. Nope. We crippled Iran's nuclear weapons ambition. Period. What was the mission in Venezuela? To extract Nicolas Maduro. And then we got into nation building. Nope. And then we started an endless war. Nope. We captured Nicolas Maduro. End of story. Now, the story is still being written in this case. I think we have a pretty good indication of what we did to Iran already. So these are just completely different things in a completely different era and a completely different person and persons calling the shots.
Not to mention, I'm just totally happy just taking control of the... Let's not bury the lead here. I'm happy with taking control of the largest oil deposit in the world, which is in my own hemisphere. That's a strategic benefit. Is that okay?
For the time being.
Okay. Yeah, we're going to take their oil. That's the difference. Go hard, Romans 8:28.